Hey guys, today is a DIY slash home decor slash gardening video. I'm going to show you how to make a terrarium just by picking stuff up from my garden. My name is Dhivya and this is my channel where I share some of my creative hacks with you. So basically a terrarium is a little man-made ecosystem for plants, just like an aquarium is for fishes. It can be a sealed container or it can even be kept open. It's basically an ornamental or decorative piece which will add that really nice earthiness to your space. If you're a plant person, you really should try this. Let's get our hands dirty.
So I'm out in my garden and most of the stuff I require are right here. So as a first step, you really want to think of the layers of a terrarium. So if you have seen a terrarium, you know that these layers really add to the beauty of the terrarium. So for the first layer, I'm just going to be picking up some pebbles from this pathway, and I'm just going to be picking up any random shapes and sizes. For the second layer, I'm using some broken marble pieces. These I picked off from Amazon, and all of things I bought I will be linking on the description box below. The next step is to prepare our soil. So the main thing we want to take care when preparing our soil is to make sure our soil does not retain too much moisture. For my soil, I need a little bit of dry leaves and just a handful will do. I'm using regular coco peat as the base and I'm using 3 parts of coco peat here, but you can also use regular potting mix. The next thing that I need is charcoal chunks, and this is also something that I picked off of Amazon. This is specifically needed to maintain the health of your terrarium, and this is particularly important if you are going to be making a closed terrarium. I'm going to give a quick mix to the coco peat to make sure there are no lumps. To this I'm adding 1 part of the charcoal chunks. And to this again 1 part of the dry leaves which I've just roughly chopped up. Add a good spritz of water. You want to feel it moist, not that it's drenching wet, just to make it a little moist, and then you want to mix this all well until it's well combined. The next and the most exciting step is to collect the plants. It's the moss which actually gives the grass-like texture in terrarium, and really when I went looking for moss is when I realized there are so many different kinds of moss. You want to only lightly scrape it off the surface, making sure you're not damaging the moss and getting it as intact as possible. Now for the plants, I'm just looking around to see these weeds which I generally just pull off. And you need to take it off and make sure that you are getting it off with the roots. So I'm just going to dig in and pull out a slab of the plant, and you can see here the roots are very much intact on the plant. And these look so delicate. I've really never stopped to look at these tiny plants. I've not really given them ever so much thought. These one look really pretty as well. So I'm just picking off some random plants just with some different textures to add to the diversity of the terrarium. Now I've got all my plants assembled and I want to give a few sprays of water to make sure it's moist enough before I start the project. Our next step is to gather some additional props just to add some additional textures to our terrarium. For this I have picked up some twigs and some varied size rocks and some pebbles. Our last step is to bring it all together and assemble our terrarium. Now before we start, we also need a plastic sheet, and I'll tell you why we need this in a bit. Additionally, you can use a paintbrush and some napkins, a pair of scissors, a spray bottle to spray water, and our glass bowl. So you can choose any kind of glass bowl. You can even use a glass jar, so it's really up to you. So now I'm going to put in my first layer of pebbles. This layer basically is kind of the drainage system for our terrarium. So any excess water that we have will drain out to this layer, preventing the rotting of the roots. Next, I want to take the plastic sheet which we had earlier seen. I'm going to cut out a circular pattern from this, keeping a 1 to 2 inch margin from the base. So I'm trying to cut and film at the same time, and that's why it's looking so clumsy. So basically I managed to cut out a piece like this, and then I want to poke in a few holes in this. So what this is going to do is it's going to again help drain out the excess water in the soil through these holes into my last layer, and it's going to prevent the roots from getting in there. So make sure you secure it nicely and just slightly bend it over the edges so that the soil does not leak over. So now for my next layer I'm using the marble bits, and this is just mainly for the aesthetic sense, and that's why I'm doing it only on the edges and just leaving out the center. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill in with our soil mixture that we had prepared and just give it around a 1 inch thickness. Now I'm going to try and landscape it by lifting it up to one side. Now we are ready to add in our plants. So when you're adding the plants, you want to start with the bigger plants and then slowly move towards the smaller ones. So I'm picking this one first, and I just want to check out the placement and then generally just lightly put it in. You don't need to dig it up too deep. You just need to lightly pot it along the surface. And these are really delicate plants, so they don't need much maintenance. You can adjust and cut out any extras using your pair of scissors. I'm using this little patch for the top of my hill. As per your idea, you can just go ahead and landscape it in so many different ways. So I'm trying to create some kind of pathway kind of look by adding these small pebbles, make it look almost like a stairway. Now I'm going to add few more plants along the sides, just along the corners, a few patches that I had. Just need to lightly press it down. You don't want to overcrowd it, and make sure you keep trimming to remove any extras and to really define it. Now once I'm added the plants, the last thing is adding the moss. So the moss is basically to add in any of the extra spaces, to give it almost like a grassy look. So I'm adding patches of this molds, and all I need to do is just lightly place it and just slightly press it down. So the next step is to add the additional props. So I'm adding these rocks here. It almost looks like a boulder in the terrarium and gives that nice texture and breaks the greenery nicely. And I'm adding a bit of these twigs to seem like logs. And I think that's it that I'm going to do, and this is how my terrarium looks. It is looking so beautiful and fresh. I'm super impressed by this. Give a good spray of water. So this is your first spray, so go ahead and give a good spray. Not that it should be drenching, but you've been working with these plants out for so long, and molds really dry off really soon. Looking at it, I thought I just needed to break the colors a little bit, so I'm adding these few marble blocks randomly, and that's the final finish to my terrarium. I'm going to just wipe it down clean with a napkin and the insides, which I've got sprayed with water, so it will remove any of the gunk and the dirt which is stuck on the glass to make it clear for a beautiful view. So that's it guys, this is the final product and it is looking so beautiful. I can just smell the inside of this bowl and it is smelling like a forest. It is so beautiful. I've really outdone myself and I'm feeling super proud of making this. And of course, before you go, a few tips on how you can maintain and care for a terrarium. So the first and most important point, water. You want to make sure you're watering moderately. They don't require much water. They can really rot easily. So you want to make sure you feel the earth, and if you feel it's dry, you need to add a few drops of water. And I use this syringe because it helps me just water the roots and not really spray the entire bowl. Then I'll need to really wipe it down, so it just makes it really easy. The next is sunlight, and you want to make sure they're kept somewhere where they don't get direct sunlight because they will dry out the moss. Just somewhere where it gets a lot of indirect sunlight.
I really hope you enjoyed this video. I love making it and filming it for you. I would love to see your creations. Do share it with me on my Instagram, which is linked down on the comment section below. There's so much you can do and so many creative ways you can landscape your terrarium. Do let me know if you have any comments or suggestions on the comment box below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the videos. Until next time, it's me, Dhivya, signing out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe.